Now, I want to expand on something that you've heard a little bit throughout the day, but it really matters. As you know, we have been told all year that the get-out-of-jail card when it comes to endless coronavirus lockdowns, let alone restrictions, is, of course, the ultimate vaccine. A vaccine that we were told could not be delivered within 12 months, but we all know has been delivered within 11 months via the United States. Roll the tape of all those health officials telling us we must have a vaccine and then we can get back to the new normal.
So until we have a vaccine or an effective treatment, we can never go back to normal.
Life won't be normal until there's a vaccine.
People say to me, when are we going to get past COVID? We're not until we get a vaccine. That is the reality.
Make that a feature of the weeks and the months and the years ahead, for however long we have to wait until a vaccine comes, what life without a vaccine looks like until we get a vaccine, right the way through until a vaccine comes.
So we get it, right? The vaccine that would guard you against getting the thing that 99.9% of people won't die from, but blocks your ability to pass it on to the less than 1% of people who would have a very serious adverse effect of COVID, seems pretty obvious. And it has been an amazing achievement for this thing to have happened within a year, even though lefties and certainly the before and after school care teachers at the North Newtown Public School wouldn't, of course, be crediting the Orange Man because Orange Man bad. But Operation Warp Speed, it got it there, and we talked about all that last night. But now that the vaccine is here, now that it has been administered to health workers in the UK and the US, and in a few months we'll start to do the same here in Australia, but let's be honest, unless you work with somebody or you're near somebody who's in around hotel quarantine, the virus is not the big concern in Australia right now. Yes, a little spot fire here or there, but we can deal with the spot fires. So today, an epidemiologist made quite the splash in an interview on 3AW this morning when, put simply, if you don't take the vaccination, you'll be going to heaven early. Now remember, 99% of people who have coronavirus or get coronavirus in Australia won't die. It won't be pleasant, won't be fun, but they're not going to die from it. So a little over the top with the dramatic language, but here he was on the radio.
People don't want it. They don't want to have it. You know, they can go to heaven early if they don't want to be vaccinated. That's the choice that people can choose to make. We don't lock them up and make them have a vaccine. The vaccine really does sell itself.
Okay, so in the same way they ramped everything up about stop the spread, they're now going to ramp everything up about a vaccine, and it's one that I will take. Okay. I know that there's 10% of people, according to the polls, who won't, but I will take the vaccine. So this is not to be used as an anti-vaxxer rant, because it's about something even a bit wider than the vaccine. In fact, even employers are now starting to openly say that if you don't have a jab, then you won't be able to have a job. We know there's conversations about your ability to fly internationally, all of this linked back to whether you take the jab or not. Well, one feature that has been absolutely consistent all year has been the inconsistency of those who are the experts who tell us what to do. Now, it makes perfect sense that things were a little bit messy there in the first few weeks, but we are now the best part of 12 months on when it comes to this pandemic, and we're well and truly on top of it in Australia. But as I say, the goalposts have been moved. Remember when the only reason to have lockdowns was to make sure that our health system could cope with the cases should they arise? And then, in the second wave, we turned around to an eradication strategy where no one was allowed to leave the house until it didn't exist for weeks and weeks and weeks in places like Victoria. Well, now, amazingly, the goalposts are being picked up, rerouted and moved again, including by the Chief Health Officer here in Australia, who said this today, that even a vaccinated Australian could still transmit COVID-19. Now, this, of course, is all of the indicators about the forever effects of coronavirus that, of course, for the most vulnerable, for those with the comorbidities, yes, can be fatal. But remember, for 99% of people, while an unpleasant experience, it won't kill them. Yet if the whole point of getting to the vaccine point means that we can all freely move around and that we wouldn't pass it on to somebody else, when did they ever say that, hang on, even after the vaccine, you might still pass it on? Which means what? which means there is no new normal. We're in it now. We're in it where a couple of cases in a state freaks out everyone else. We doom scroll through our phones to double check whether we've been to the place that has been affected or not. Or low-level state politicians turn around and shut the borders saying you can't go to your families. This is even after a vaccine is in place. And there's even, well, this stuff being said again by Paul Kelly. Roll the tape.
The AstraZeneca vaccine that has already looked at whether that vaccine protects against asymptomatic illness. At the moment, from that interim analysis that was published in the Lancet journal last week, it demonstrates it probably doesn't. So it could be that people may have asymptomatic disease after having had the vaccine and not know it, and that, as we know, can transmit to others.
And the same stuff's being said in the United States.
This is one of the misperceptions here. Just because you get vaccinated with that second dose does not mean you should be participating in things like traveling in the middle of an out-of-control pandemic, or that you're liberated from masks. Mm-hmm. Everything still applies until all of us get the 2-dose regimen. And we don't think that's going to happen until June, July. And again, this goes back to what we just talked about, Chuck. We don't know if just getting the vaccination prevents serious illness, or does it also prevent you from getting infection entirely, meaning you can still get infected with the virus potentially and pass it on to others. So really, really critical. Don't let your guard down just because you got vaccinated. You still might be able to get infected with the virus.
So you start to get the feeling that it didn't matter what happened. Certain people have a view that the new normal was never to be achieved. And they bet on the idea that the vaccine wouldn't be around within a year, that somehow it would keep going and going and going. For what reason, I don't know. But when a man who has the ear of the incoming president says things like this, even though a vaccine is now available in the United States, it should frighten everyone.
When do you think life will fully return to what we thought of as normal back in January? No masks, no social distancing, no other protective measures necessary.
So we'll have, starting in the summer, about 9 months where a few things like big public gatherings will still be restricted. But, we can see now that somewhere between 12 to 18 months, and we have a chance, if we manage it well, to get back to normal.
12 to 18 months. He's literally talking about lockdowns being the way to deal with this until literally everyone is vaccinated. And even then, it's not once, it's twice. 2022 is what Bill Gates is talking about. And I'm sorry. Does anyone want to give our state premiers the power to open and shut the gate, to decide whether they can and can't come to your births, deaths and marriages? Till 2022? He thinks not.